Yo, what's up, guys? It's the F1 cast coming back to you with another week of, exciting F1 content. This time we're going to be covering the Austria Grand Prix, the, qualifying, the sprint race, the race results, go a little bit into what's going to happen going forward and all that good stuff. So, over to you, Joseph.
So this week was a pretty big week. We got a sprint race. I think we were all kind of confused on what why there was a race on Saturday, but there's a sprint race this week. But let's start off with qualifying. We have it was a pretty good qualifying session from what I was watching. Pretty early, but managed to watch it.
Yeah, it was pretty good all around. I mean, I'm trying to think if there's any standout performances for me. Dude, I don't know why my memory goes within like 2 hours after, or like within a day after watching a race.
Dude, they were pretty hard on the track limits on this track or the circuit.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, they were.
yeah. This is definitely the most I've ever seen it. Where it was like, at least in qualies, it was like a shit ton of laps were getting deleted during the race itself. There's like every
Yeah.
other lap, you'd see the FIA thing popping up on the stream. You'd see people getting a lot of 5-second penalties were getting given out. I know Hamilton was pretty pissed off during the race about that. But
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
it was funny to see because it was like people going around and then be like, "Oh, that's a good lap," and then it would say like it's been deleted over and
Yeah,
over again. So it'd be like people bouncing up and down because like they'd have a
Yeah.
good lap and then there was a chance to get deleted. And now it's like if you went over, it was a very specific thing, like the white. I don't know. I heard white line. I
Because of
didn't.
a
I'm
light
not gonna
line,
lie.
yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really paying attention when people like were like how far they were pushing it, but yeah, it was just constant deletions. Which I saw some people talking about it that like drivers wanted them to be stricter about it because some people were in the past kind of taking liberties with track limits.
yeah.
But I don't know. But then like when you get the penalty, then it's like, oh, this is fucking dumb. I wasn't doing that. So yeah, all in all, it's pretty funny to see.
Pretty
Uh,
big day in qualifying for Haas.
Haas and I
Yeah,
think Haas and Alpine really stand out
Yeah.
weekend. I think.
the mid-team field or midfield teams that are really putting in work these last two races, really
Yeah.
coming out swinging. Yeah, love seeing that. Love seeing
Also,
Schumacher.
not a bad showing from Williams. Alex Albon getting 11th in qualies. So maybe those upgrades in the Williams are starting to come through a little bit.
Yeah,
I know we didn't
Right.
see them at all in the last race, but we're starting to.
oh, he's starting to show that they're a little more competitive with the upgrades, which I think that's nice. Um, yeah, it's kind of hard to gauge how much. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess because usually he'd be like right around Latifi. He'd be a bit
Yeah,
ahead of him, but like
yeah,
still like at the bottom. So he's moving up a couple paces, which are kind of filled with like the Aston Martins in the I guess recently the AlphaTauris.
Right.
In
and
Man.
then I
yeah,
think this weekend also. I thought this weekend really showed how shitty the McLaren is.
yeah,
Yeah.
qualifying was
Because it,
not
it
good.
just seems like at least the order in like cars, it's like you got Red Bull, Ferrari, top two fastest cars right now, Mercedes, then it goes Alpine, Haas, and then like below Haas is the McLaren. And I don't know, watching Lando actually makes it look not too bad, but Ricardo just makes that thing look like a piece of shit. You know, Ricardo not making out of round one of qualifying, like I don't know, it's just rough. It's rough for sure.
Yeah, it's I mean, Ricardo, the smile wears thinner and thinner each race when it's the post-race interview or the
Hmm.
post-qualifying interview. It's slowly the edges of the smile are coming down. And
Yeah.
it's tough to see him. He's becoming a shell of his former self with each passing moment. But I mean, it was just a terrible qualifying for them with Daniel not because like especially because I mean, after each race, it's always we'll do better next week. We'll put our best foot forward. But especially like he seemed to really like kind of push that narrative even more after Silverstone because it was so bad. He like was last out of every car that finished, which was only 13 cars, I think. But then like he was like, yeah, I have to do something. Like I gotta push myself and then he comes in here and then he just gets out in the first qualifying session. It's just heartbreak after heartbreak.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
I
also
think.
help with Norris being 15th. He made it past Q1, but like he ended up being 15th. So
Mhm.
like
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I don't know. We're getting to an interesting impasse where I think it's definitely when we talk more about the sprint race, we'll get into it. There's a really interesting thing that happened with McLaren, but it's really starting to show that Daniel Ricciardo is not the priority at all for McLaren. He's really like the second option, where it's like the Ferrari thing where Charles Leclerc wins, everyone's happy. Carlos Sainz wins, we could have done
No,
better.
no one
I got
shows
something to
up
say
to
about
the.
that. I got something to
But
say about it later, but
uh, but it's like, I don't know. It just seems like McLaren really is not placing much value on Daniel Ricciardo anymore. And when contract time comes, I think it's going to be interesting to see what's coming next with Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, I think I saw they were trying out. I think he was a winner in IndyCar. He's some American driver. I think it was one of those things where he's probably nothing, but like it got headlines because he was an American driver. I don't remember what his name was, but that was cool to see. And then immediately when you see something like that, the comments are always like, "That bum Ricardo's out of there. He's done. He's finished."
Sure.
So, so yeah, I think it's a scary spot to be in because it's kind of like when I feel like once all the contract seasons where they're all like kind of going up and people are shifting around, it's like a game of musical chairs, and you just gotta hope there's a spot for you. And I feel like Ricardo, he's gonna be left in the dust. But
Yeah, we'll definitely see. I think maybe there is some opportunities for him, and maybe one of the lower midfield teams, but we'll see. I just don't see, Ricardo just isn't a hot prospect unless he starts really picking up the pace a little bit and showing himself more in these upcoming
Right.
races.
yeah, I feel like. I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
Go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say it feels like you get to that crossroads as a driver where when there's absolutely no more hope of like winning at all, like I feel like when a driver thinks there's like a 0% chance in their mind that they could like be a champion, that's when they kind of call it. Like I feel like there's crossroads where some call it quits and some cash out and go to like one of the shittier teams,
Mhm.
and then like just kind of like race for the fun of it. So I feel like that's kind of a crossroads that Daniel might be getting to here soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Potentially. So yeah, we'll have to see what he decides to do.
Is there?
Do you guys think his move to Renault back in 20 after the 2018 season kind of ruined his chances as a driver, or like kind of showed what his true potential is as a driver?
Though, so he was on Red Bull before that, right? And then that's where
Yeah,
he
Yeah.
was.
Red Bull to Renault.
He was their number one driver for like a year or two, right? Like he's the one that kind of
Yeah.
booted out Vettel because he did better than him in a season on like his first season there, I think maybe, or not, maybe not first, but he did well better than him, and then Vettel was gone. I think
Yeah.
it's just such a strange move because I feel like any driver just kills even if they're not the number one driver for a spot on that top team, because like if you just end up out racing the other driver, you make yourself number one. So it's like, I don't know. It just feels a bit to me like kind of bowing out to go to a midfield team. Because
Right.
I mean, unless it's just more of a struggle to have to. I mean, because it's just, yeah, I don't know. Not a fan of the move. I'm just gonna settle on that. Not a fan. That's
Yeah,
what
for
I'll
sure.
say. Yeah, but yeah,
Pretty
I don't
bad
know.
outing for Mercedes in qualifying. Both cars in Q3 both slammed into a wall.
That's crazy because Mercedes is like the consistency gods this season. Like they just never seem to really crash out or anything, and then both of them doing it in one qualifying session was just kind of insane because it's such a rare thing to happen for their team. So I mean, they got out of the way early though.
Welcome back, Wesley.
Are we good to resume?
We're good.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mercedes in the qualifying. Okay. What happened with Mercedes in qualifying is really starting to make me hate the general population of F1 fans, I think. Because I forget, I think it was Hamilton's crash maybe. But
It
one of them
was.
was way worse than the other and looked like potentially dangerous. But even before there is any guarantee that either Mercedes driver was, safe and okay after their crash, the fans at the track were going nuts. They were loving seeing two people potentially injured. Um,
Right.
and
Yeah,
man,
that's
I
crazy.
I was not a fan of that. I don't know. I think it's just what happens with the people who are fans of maybe the higher tier teams with
Right.
Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes. But I really think that they're just unbearable as people.
I definitely can see some merit in that. I think it depends, but it's like, I mean, at least online, I feel like it's like most people have pretty lukewarm, pretty normal takes, but then it's like the 1 in 10 says just some like insane shit,
Yeah,
where it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, like I can't really think of any, but it'll usually be something like da 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 is good, like somebody's good who's like just doing well in the season. I'll be like, oh, dude, that piece of shit's so fucking overrated. It's because of this and that and the other thing, and like if it wasn't for
Right.
all that, he would be terrible. He'd be a bum. And it's just like, wow, that's crazy. That you're doing a lot of mental gymnastics to just hate on someone when you could just say like, yeah, they're pretty good. I feel like you see that a decent amount.
Yeah, I think as a fan, I think you should never boo someone who crashes because it's a dangerous sport. I mean, you crash into a barrier, it's potentially someone's life. So it's kind of like, don't boo that. I mean, it's okay to boo in the race if they get passed over, but if they're gonna crash, like, don't do that. It's not.
And even like I mean, I guess you can't. It's like I don't know. I guess a similar comparison is when NBA players get injured. A lot of the times, teams will like enemy opponents will kind of cheer for that.
That's crazy.
But it's
Right.
just I don't know. There's something off about it. I know it's not every Mercedes fan, but it's like um at that track, it was pretty insane how loud the cheers were after we saw those two Mercedes crash into the wall. It was pretty nuts.
Well, it's funny because it was like
Yeah.
the opposite, like just a weekend before, I think, because like they were like booing for Max when he did well, I think at Silverstone, I
Yeah, yeah,
thought.
Yeah.
And now they just it's like just the same, but the opposite. So it's just like
yeah.
everyone's just the
hmm
same. But like it's crazy to see it. It is, I mean, just the risk of like, let's say you look so fucking stupid if somebody gets like injured from any, I mean, by any measure, when like
Yeah.
you're cheering and then you're like, oh shit, he like broke something or he's dead. Like then you just look like a dumbass. So it's like,
Right.
yeah, it's just so dumb. It's just so dumb, and it's just, yeah, no, terrible, terrible.
It
Um.
also doesn't help the fact that, like, I mean, like, I forgot what I was gonna say, but like, it doesn't help the fact that, like, yeah, you booed Max Verstappen in the last week, or they booed Max Verstappen in the last week of the race because it was a British Grand Prix and all the British fans are all Lewis Hamilton fans. But like,
Yeah,
don't make it any less of a what do you call it? I don't know. I forgot what I was gonna say. Whatever. We can continue on, but yeah, it's just
cut that,
stupid
cut that,
to.
cut that.
It's just stupid
Oh,
to boo people.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I think that's pretty much all the qualities. I think we
yep,
covered all the standouts, the crashes, the people who fell off. Daniel Ricciardo going into this weekend. I made the bold prediction of Daniel Ricciardo fourth, and now it's
yeah,
looking like the new prediction is Daniel Ricciardo teamless after this season. So I guess we'll see what makes.
yeah.
Um,
Which one of those?
so do we want to talk about the sprint?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
down with the sprint. I mean, the sprint was mostly right. I was like the top people all kind of remained the same, and then like the midfield was where a lot of the battling happened. I mean, at the top of the field, like with Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, it was like one lap of battling, and then it really simmered down real quick.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Like
I agree.
I guess that was the first thing. I guess it was lap one. So the first thing to note was like Sainz was battling super hard with Leclerc, which just kind of like took a like kind of edged or like gave Verstappen a little of an edge over them. I think because they had to wear each other's tires out, just kind of racing each other for a little bit there. But I mean, it just ended up. I thought it was just interesting seeing that Verstappen's pace looked pretty good. Like
Yeah,
on the sprint, like Leclerc was catching to some extent at the end, but it like wasn't enough that it looked like, oh, like Verstappen should be kind of concerned come
Right.
like Sunday. But yeah, it was interesting to see. And then I kept saying yesterday, I was concerned that Sainz and Leclerc would race like that on race start Sunday and take each other out. Like was my main concern. I
yeah.
was
Right.
real stressed that they would like one of them would pull a move and then it would just be Ferrari double DNF. So that did happen. I'll just say that. So that was good.
Yeah, it looked like the Ferrari's degradation or tire degradation or tire deg on the sprint race wasn't as bad as it was on the race because I guess it was
Yeah.
a cooler temp track on race day.
hmm
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess one of the big climbs was Perez. I mean, he started in 13th due to lap times being deleted in qualifying, and he started 13th, and I guess he pushed his way. I think in lap 1 he gained like 5 places. He was up into 8th already, and then I think at the end of the sprint race he was at 5th.
Yeah, he did end 5th, which is crazy, making up all those spots. I think between Silverstone and then this weekend, we see Perez is incredibly good at overtaking midfield cars. He's just able to make quick work of everyone that isn't like a Ferrari or like maybe a Mercedes will give him a little trouble. But besides for that, he's just going to fly by you. So yeah, that was really cool to see. He was kind of the big leaper of the day. Compared to Alex Albon, he was looking for bodies on qualifying. Like I think he had a few incidents. I don't remember. One was with Vettel. I think he fucked Vettel up. He took him straight
Vettel's
off
been
the track.
getting in the mix lately. He's been dicing it up.
Yeah. No, like I think this one it was Alex Albon. Like I could kind of see he was pinched kind of close considering it was a Williams, and he said he was having like understeer or something. So then he just kind of wiped out Vettel. He wasn't. He had like a little bit of room, I think, but like he said it wasn't enough for the Williams to like for him to kind of make that corner. He didn't have enough space. But there was another incident too, which I think was more on Albon. I don't remember who it was with, but it was earlier. But yeah, he like caught 2 bodies and then fell 4 places. So that kind of really fucked with my Alex Albon in 6th position, prediction for the race.
Yeah.
So
there was
unfortunate.
There was one thing that was pretty interesting so this kind of goes into what I was saying with McLaren and Ricardo being kind of the second choice driver now.
Right.
There was a pretty interesting thing where for a lot of the sprint race, it seemed like McLaren were kind of in their own bubble where they were not really making pace on the people in front of them. There wasn't much happening for them in the race, and it was just the 2 McLarens kind of next to each other. And during this time, Ricardo was making calls like, "Let me pass Lando. Let me see if I think I've got more pace than him. Let me pass, and then if I don't, then he can just pass me. There's no harm in trying." And
Yeah.
he was calling for this, and then his race engineer just kind of hit him with the radio silence. They just completely ignored what he said until the sprint was done, and then they're like, "All right, nice job, Ricardo. We'll see you tomorrow." So they didn't want to try anything. They didn't really value Ricardo, is what it seems like, and they didn't want to even think about not putting their star Lando Norris, like not give him the chance to stay in front. So I just thought that was interesting for them to do.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like that's tough, to ghost your driver when your whole job is probably to sit there and communicate with them.
Yeah.
That's kind of fucked up because it's kind of like my job's to sit here and let you know what's up, and I'm just gonna not do that right now. I'm just not, having a little moment. So that just sucks for him. I feel like I don't know. It's got to give some bad vibes, and I mean, I feel like it's just if there's no harm, you gotta let him try. You gotta let him see if he's got pace. Let Ricardo fly.
Let him test out the limits of that McLaren. Push
Yeah,
it to the limit.
Yeah, let him see what he can do out there. So I mean, that sucked, but I mean, I guess when you look at the points difference, you can see why Norris is the front runner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pretty sad day for Alonso. He had a pretty decent qualifying. He had a electrical issue problem. I think it was with the battery, so he couldn't start the sprint race. And I think they had to do 2 formation laps, so they had to pull his car back into the pits.
Yeah, I think what it was is at first I was confused because when they all went off the line, wait, did he still have? I thought he still had on like the tire like heaters. I think on the first when they first went off the line. Maybe I'm wrong. No, that might have been some.
Yeah,
but I just know I just thought it was funny because he wasn't moving, and then his team had to like run out there while like all the cars were. It was just fucked. Yeah, especially since he did so well, and he's definitely had the worst luck of the season out of every driver. I think Alonso, because like he's consistently put up good like qualities and like races, but like the car is just trying to fail at every opportunity it gets. Every small thing the car wants to just give out and not do anything. So that's rough. That's unfortunate.
But he's been liking just the upgrades that they've been doing to the Alpine, and I think
it definitely seems like
loves. Yeah,
it seems like Alpine is kind of they're putting themselves above the other midfield teams. Like I feel like maybe earlier in the season it was a bit harder to tell the different, like if there was really a difference in speed between the Haas, the Alpine, the AlphaTauri, um, and as the seasons kind of went on, it seems like Alpine's really been consistently taking their car to the next level and kind of putting themselves above the other midfield teams.
Right. And I think they're literally the only team with the Renault engine, and everybody else has the Mercedes or Ferrari engine and or the Red Bull engine. So it kind of speaks to like to having a solo team with their own engine, kind of really working themselves up as a midfield team.
True.
Yeah, I mean, it just yeah, it just seems like their upgrades are hidden pretty well. Like their upgrades are just doing what it needs to do. Like when you look at a team like McLaren, I'm assuming they've probably had upgrades as well come in, and it's just not working to the same effect.
Yeah, no,
like,
not at all.
Yeah,
and they probably have a bigger
downgrades.
budget than Alpine, so I mean, like to see that, it's kind of sad.
And I think AlphaTauri, like they didn't even start hot, and I think somehow they're downgrading. I don't know what they've got going on. That's like one that I feel like I haven't talked about enough, but I feel like they're just doing really bad recently. Like
they are just terrible this season, man. I'm
Yeah.
really praying for them. I'm really hoping for them to have a really decent race, and I think the only race that we've seen them do really decent in is the Baku Grand Prix, and that was it.
Yeah, it's just looked really bad all around for them. Like just tough. So I mean, yeah, hopefully I mean, it's really fun seeing the upgrades come in because it just kind of just everyone gets kind of bunched up. Like this race was incredible because there's just so much close driving for so much of it with the midfield, and it's nice to see those upgrades are kind of hitting for everyone. And then any given week, somebody could just have a little more pace than someone else, and it's not set in stone.
Right.
Yeah.
This was also a really good. I think Haas had a really good sprint race as well. I think Mick Schumacher was fighting Hamilton throughout the whole race, and I think it was really great to see that.
Oh no, that he was incredible with the defending, and I heard some rumors online of Schumacher going through his villain arc right now because he after the race he was kind of fuming because Magnussen didn't tow him like last lap. He went out at DRS range, so Hamilton was able to pass. And like when he was talking about it after, he was just kind of like he seemed pretty upset, and he was just like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about this." He was getting into that, you know, that demon mode, you know.
He's starting to pick up some confidence, and I think that the race in Silverstone kind of. I think, man, I don't know what it is, man. I think something about Silverstone always turns the season around for Red Bull, and I think, but like I said, for the midfield teams, I think for Schumacher, I think it really is a turning point for his career.
I think now it's just like I just flipped the switch, you know. I don't know where that lyric's from, but some rapper said that, and Schumacher, Drake said that, and I think Schumacher, he's taking that page, he's flipping the switch, and it's gonna be lights out the rest of the season. I hope. I love to see him compete up there.
He popped half the Zan, got an hour to lands, and he's just going crazy right now.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I love you know, as much as we all love racers showing emotion during the race and berating the race engineers, I also love racers who get pissed off and emotional after the fact. So Mick Schumacher getting pissed off, I'm all for it. You know, let's keep that going.
Right, I think he was pretty mad at just that Kevin was pulling away and not giving him the DRS zone, because like I think Hamilton, he would have got into the points into the sprint race had Magnussen kept towing him throughout the whole race. So
yeah,
that's interesting that Magnussen would do that.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that was great to see. Also, I'm trying to think if there's anything else on the sprint that was particularly, you know, out there. But I think we kind of covered it.
Yeah,
not that it's at all interesting, but Russell was pretty alone in that whole sprint race. He kind of had nobody in front of him to see, nobody behind him to catch him. So
just racing on an empty track vibing.
It was a one-on-one, you know, it's him against himself out there. It's like shadow boxing in the car. But yeah, that's I think it was just a sim day, but it feels like that's the Mercedes kind of motto right now. Is it's like the Ferraris and Red Bulls are way too fast. Like there's always it's always the Ferraris and Red Bulls like with very small gaps between each other, then a massive gap. And then it's the Mercedes, and then it's usually like another pretty big gap, and it's like whoever's after them.
Yeah.
So it's just like they're like on an island on the track where there's just nothing going on at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exciting to see always. Well, not actually, it's the opposite of exciting, but you know, it's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Should we get into
All right,
the
let's get in,
race?
get into the race.
Yeah, the race, banger.
Banger
Yeah.
alert.
Banger
This is a
alert.
must watch. Watch the
It's
highlights.
a pretty good start for a pretty good first lap there. I mean, we had a lot of action, especially in turn one.
Yeah,
we
a lot
had
going on.
Leclerc, right? We had Verstappen kind of pull away after the start, and then we go into turn 4, and we have Russell bumping into Sergio Perez, who made up a lot of places in the sprint race.
Yeah. Perez, I think he was just like, he had so many overtakes. He just thought this is just gonna be another one, and then Russell was like, "Nah, get in the fucking gravel or whatever there was." And he just kind of punted him in there, you know. But I mean, yeah, and then Russell did get a penalty for that, and I think, yeah, I mean, he completely ruined Perez's race. But I mean, it was pretty tight with how much room there was. But I think he could have managed to move over a little more. But then again, I'm not a racer, and I don't have any concept of what they can and cannot do at certain moments.
Right.
So yeah, I'm kind of just talking, just saying my very loose thoughts on it.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just it. As soon as the crash happened, you could just tell that like Perez was pretty fucked. Like he he did a couple laps, and you could just see he was not gaining anything on Latifi. He was losing pace on Latifi. And I don't blame them at all for just retiring the car.
I think I heard something about his side pod getting like ripped or something like that.
Yeah,
which I think would
there was
lose
a big
you
hole
a lot
in
of.
it. Yeah, a lot of downforce. You lose a lot of downforce with that.
And I mean, Latifi was so off the pace that he just decided to come in the garage and like have a nice soda pop or something. So like, if you can't catch him, get out of the sun. It was hot out.
Orange smoke.
If you can't catch that guy, it's your car's fucked, and you gotta go back in the garage and call it quits.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think let's talk about the top three drivers there. I mean, for the first 10 laps, and it looked like Verstappen was having a good lead on Leclerc, and then his tires just kind of gave out. I mean, I think his apparently, according to the analysts and the commentators, they were saying that the tire degradation for Red Bull today was just not what it was in the sprint race, and I think it was due to the fact that on cooler tracks we see that that Ferrari's tire degradation is way better compared to the Red Bulls.
Interesting. I also I think also a lot of teams, actually that probably goes a little later, but it was just interesting to see because on sprint, I think you said it was the track temperature, but it was like Verstappen looked like if he was going to get ahead, that he was there's a good chance he was going to stay ahead. At least that looked like kind of the indicator from the sprint. Right. Or that he would be able to maintain his lead, but it looked like not only on the first set of tires, right, when they started to degrade, it was better for Ferrari, but then when they went to the hards, it just looked so much faster for Ferrari with their like fresher tires. Like the speed that Leclerc had was like, it was like the first overtake was a pretty tough one for him, like to get around. It looked like it took a little bit of fighting, and he found like a super nice overtake on the inside. I mean, so that one was great, but then the other ones, he was just so much faster. It just looked like he just like zoomed right by him. Like Verstappen just could not do anything.
It was that straight going to turn 3, and it just like he just zoomed past him. Regardless, if Verstappen tried to defend, there was nothing to defend there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess Red Bull was threw everything at him with their strategists. I think Leclerc still came out on top.
That brings up, I think it was interesting to see that Ferrari seemed to get something right for once in their fucking year. Like I was concerned because it seemed like they actually made the right calls today. Oh, look, Wes is gone. Okay, we'll just keep going until maybe he comes back, hopefully. But what was it? It was like, I'm trying to think, because it was like, I think most people were planning on going in and doing a 1 pit stop, right?
Yeah,
it was
that's
like
what
the game plan going in, I heard.
Yeah.
But then people were like, oh, they're degrading kind of quick, and it's like the new tires just are so much quicker that it was just like, it just ended up being better to do a second set, especially. And then I was super happy that when there was the virtual safety, that, Ferrari didn't do some dumb shit, like leave their car out. They decided to, it looked like they learned from that mistake, and they just immediately went in for the mediums. So that was real nice to see. But I just, oh yeah, I guess you could just pause.
Fuck. Wesley said his internet is dying. Where were you at? What were you saying again? You said the strategy. It was their tires.
Well, it's just I was just mostly kind of concerned because at first they were gonna do one pit stop and then
Okay.
oh man,
yeah.
it was tough because I also when I was watching Ferrari, they had like a some windows where Verstappen pitted first and then Leclerc was still pulling ahead a bit, so he could have probably realistically pitted, had fresher tires, and still came out in first. But they were just
Right.
so confident in their overtakes that it just didn't matter, and that they ended up just doing it later, so that they had even fresher tires compared to Verstappen, and that just
Yeah.
worked probably just as well. So I mean, it was just kind of it seemed dicey to me at the moment, thinking like, oh man, like if they pit after, like Verstappen might just defend, but they were just so much faster, it didn't matter.
Right. It did not.
Yeah.
Overall, still a great race. Guess we'll just wait for Wesley here. We'll do some cutting action.
Yeah, little cuts. The hell is this?
I'm not gonna lie, I bought some ribs from Safeway and I'm
Mm-hmm.
dying to eat.
Oh my goodness.
Fuck.
Juicy container.
Yeah. Dying to eat. Yeah.
It turned into a mukbang. All right, I guess I'll keep browsing the F1 Reddit. Oh, he be back maybe?
Let's go.
Oh.
Sorry, I don't know what the fuck happened.
All right,
Oh,
back
yeah.
back to Dylan.
Oh yeah, I was talking pit stops and tires and how mediums, it look competitive. Hards, Ferrari just looked so much better on them that it was insane. And then my theory was also, well, this might be kind of dumb, but well, I mean, maybe not. I just thought when people were like, oh man, like a one pit stop didn't work, it's because you know how they work on a range from like there's like 5 different tires, but they select a
Yeah.
range of 3. Like this was the
Right.
softest 3 possible, so it kind of made sense to me that they didn't last the whole race, the hards being like the actual like out of the 5, the one in the very middle, it was like
Right.
basically
The
the softest hards
medians.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought I guess it kind of made sense to me that they didn't last as long maybe as people would have thought, and it ended up being 2 pit stop strategies from everyone.
Right.
But yeah, the main thing that really just had me sweating up until the end of the race, where shit really hit the fan. We'll talk about that. Was just the pit stop strategy. Like Ferrari, I just have no faith in them at the moment, but they managed to just pull through. They just kind of understood that they had strength in the hard tires, and they kind of used that very well against Verstappen.
Right.
And I was surprised by that. Very surprised.
I thought so. There was a couple of races ago where we had Lewis Hamilton featured as the Grim Reaper, where he was just kind of, he was just there. He was creeping up. I forget who he was gonna pass, but he was always in the background, not looming too far behind and just gaining on you. And that's what it seemed like
Right.
at the beginning of this race, where we had Max
Yeah.
Verstappen kind of futilely trying to hold on to the lead, where you could just see Leclerc just on his ass. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
and he couldn't do like that. I don't know. The Ferrari just looked insane today, up until shit hit the fan with Carlos Sainz. But like at the beginning of the race,
No,
the
yeah.
Ferrari's pace, it was just I don't know. It was insane.
Yeah,
That
it
car
was
looked way
just
too fast.
Right.
No, as a Ferrari fan, I was getting massive dopamine releases, seeing every lap the difference in time just taking massive hits. It was like it
Yeah.
was so
Right.
much time they were making up each lap. I was like, oh my god, the
Yeah, and
speed.
I think when the Ferraris pitted too, and I think Verstappen only had like a 6 second lead. I think after like 1 or 2 laps, it dropped down to like 3.5 seconds of a lead for Verstappen, and I was just like, well, nothing you can do there,
Yeah.
but right.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy to see. And then, oh man, the midfield this whole
Oh
race was
man, yeah. Let's not take away
crazy.
from the top two or the top three teams driving or
Yeah.
racing each other. Let's not take away from the midfield because this was a really good race for the midfields.
It
Yeah,
was
for
just
sure.
so close for everyone except for
Right.
like a couple at the bottom. But like at one point there was like five drivers just like piled up on basically like right next to each other, and they were
Right.
all fighting. And of course, Schumacher, new greatest driver, just I think he managed to win out of all those drivers. So
Right.
it was just crazy to see stuff like that happening.
I think it was two Haas, one McLaren, and I think one Alpine, and I think one Alfa Romeo, and I think they
Yeah.
were just like
Yeah.
there was five of them just going five wide into turn three, and I was just like, oh shit.
Insane shit. Insane.
Yeah. A lot of close racing, which is just great to see. And when it's an open wheel cars, it's even more exciting because if one of them fucks up, then somebody's just flying.
Yeah.
As we saw with Joe last week, like you don't want to be touched by another car.
Right.
It's just no good. I saw a clip on YouTube earlier that was also like that. It was a Formula 3 driver, and he like got airtime. Like he was in the air for a while. And
Yeah.
it just goes to show, you never know what's gonna happen if you touch another car. So it just makes it
Right.
so dicey when you get those big groups.
Um.
Yeah. I
Oh, I think. Oh, sorry. This
go
is
go go
this is
go
kind
go.
of going off. This was a pretty good weekend for Williams, I thought. Um, I think Albon was actually really getting out there and kind of showing what his upgraded car was able to do. Um, he was very close to snagging points. He was like locked. It looked like he had 10th locked up going into the end of the race, and then ended up letting it slip by. But I'd love to see Williams start getting in the mix more with it.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to see. What I really want to see though, it was a little odd. Is I want to see like Latifi with the upgrades to see like how much better, if he improves. Does Latifi get in the points?
I
Is he
think
up there?
there's. I think right now the people at Williams are scared to unleash Go Tiffy out on the track. Um,
They don't want to
they
give him
gave
that
us
power
they
up.
they they uh they let a little they gave us a little taste at the last race where we saw him make Q3, and then right at the beginning of the race we see him make that perfect pass up the middle, go up like 2 places, and then God had to come through and give us that 4 car crash to make sure Latifi can't succeed.
Yeah.
But I think
Right.
we could definitely see Go Tiffy start coming out more and more.
Yeah, those upgrades are going to be nice to see. And I mean, I think they should. I mean, this is like basically the first race we got to see them, so they should be able to push that further and maybe snag some of the lower points positions, and that'll be
Hmm.
nice to see that
Right.
develop. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean not a bad day for Alpine either. They got fifth and 10th, and I
Yeah.
think Alonso starting from 20th to climb 10 places into the points is that's a pretty
That's
successful
insane.
day.
Yeah, he's a great driver. And do you see his little finger wag? You guys watch
Yeah.
that? When he was
Yeah, we saw it. We
with
saw it.
Yuki, that's crazy because I think he was like driving with his left, going and like racing him, and then he went like that with his right. Was that how it went? I
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
don't
think
really
so.
know, but yeah, it was pretty insane to see that he did that. But I mean, I feel like that's mental damage if you somehow catch that as Yuki. You look over and see someone wagging their finger at you. It's like holy shit! Like this guy's better than me at driving. He doesn't even need to keep his fucking hands on the wheel.
That'd be insane if Yuki did see that. I feel like I don't know. I'd love to see. I think that'd be sick if he did see that. Um,
Uh,
I think this was like I might have mentioned it earlier, but I think this was like the race that really kind of showcased it kind of showed the levels to the cars because it seemed
Hmm.
like the midfield was kind of stacked up in the order of how their cars went.
right.
The top end was kind of it just kind of showed this race just kind of really showed the different levels to all the different cars.
Right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and it did do a pretty good job of showing currently where the different cars are at. And
Mm-hmm.
it also, I don't know, it just feels like this as we're getting close to the middle of the season or whatever. It's kind of like I don't know, some teams are moving up a little bit, some down, but it's kind of starting to solidify their spots, and it was
Mhm.
nice to see.
I think it shows that how far Mercedes is off of Ferrari and Red Bull. I mean,
Let me
like
see here.
the lead between, I think the between Verstappen and Hamilton, I think the gap was like 38 seconds, dude. And I think
Yeah,
that was a pretty big.
It was like
That's a pretty
40.
big lead.
Yeah,
Like
it looks
39,
like I'm
something
looking
like
at it
that.
right now. 39.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's
as far as Mercedes are, I mean, yeah, they're having no issues with porpoising as of right now in the last two races, but I think it just shows you how far off they are from the top two teams right now.
It's
Mhm.
weird also because we saw a glimpse at Silverstone where like Hamilton for a good amount of the race had the best pace.
Yeah,
And now it's like it looks back to same old this week where they're good, but they're not at that level of good. So it's weird. It's like I don't know what it is, but it just seems like some teams they have like certain like places and certain setups that just give them like so much value. And I have no clue what that is, but some
right.
teams I guess just have some areas where they find like a comfort zone.
Is it
That was a pretty
is
good
it
race
time for
for
us?
George Russell.
Yeah. You think it's time to discuss the tragedy of Carlos Sainz? Are
Yeah,
you ready to talk
It
about it, Dylan?
is
yeah,
right.
it was unfortunate. I was so happy. I was thinking, oh my god, Ferrari. I was starting to think Ferrari won too. Things are looking super good, and like it was at such a bad time too because Sainz was catching Verstappen so
Yeah,
fast. He was
Yeah.
making up insane pace. I was like, things look good, and I look at his car. Oh, what's that? It looks like it's smoking, and it's like,
it was
oh
out of nowhere too. Out
yeah,
of nowhere, just a fucking plume of smoke, and then shit hit the fan so fast. Like
yeah. At the end
it
of
was
the
actually
race.
crazy to watch it in real time because um, so yeah, I guess I'll just like break it down where it's we saw that plume of smoke. Signs immediately his like engine's fucked. He can't go fast anymore. He pulls off to the side. Um, immediately his car just goes into flames. Like there's
It was
fire kind of
quick.
just spreading through the car. Um, and then you can see. I think this really showed that there's an abundance of jobs at for work for Formula One and a lack of qualifications because the marshals were some of the most out of shape old people I've ever seen who had no fucking chance to help Carlos Sainz escape from that fucking fiery death pit. You could see there was like four marshals, only one of them ran out to help him. One guy literally sat down his fire extinguisher and just watched. Only one guy approached the car. He fucked up putting down the little blocker to stop Sainz from rolling backwards. And
Yeah, it's fucked.
so like Sainz is like barely crawling out through the fire and I don't know, it just really bad
Oh
showing for the
god.
marshals this weekend.
Right.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I feel like maybe it's the group mentality where there's so many marshals hired. You just think, fuck, dude, my boys got it. I can
Yeah.
just sit here and chill out. I can watch. I can be the guy watching. I feel yeah, and then there's just one of them's got to think, fuck, I guess I got to do it. And then dude, it was so stressful. The one moment where like he couldn't like stop. He was like rolling
just couldn't
backwards.
stop
So he was-
rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, he couldn't stop rolling, so he didn't want to get out. So then it was like a little motion, but then the flames were coming so
Mhm.
fast, and
Yeah.
the whole time there was nobody there. And then also, you got the fact that you can see on the left on the leaderboards, he's fucking dropping like a rock down the list,
Yeah.
because it's over. And then it's all that's happening at once, and it's just like, oh man, Sainz actually can't catch a break, especially
There
because
was
he was doing
also
so well.
There was one
Right.
thing or not okay, there's one thing I found funny. I was gonna say I loved it, but
Uh,
I don't think I did in retrospect. What happened? So at the end, after Carlos escaped his near-death experience, he kind of sat down on a ridge and just kind of like looked out at his car in the track. And this
yeah.
guy comes up and like he's like fully equipped. Yeah, he must have been a marshal as well. And he just like runs up. He like gives him the thumbs up, like he's
Oh
checking in
no.
on him.
Now that
And
I
then
think about it,
he gave him he just thumbs up, just and then Carlos like and then the guy just like ran off and did
now that I think
something.
about
I don't.
it, it's like he hustled not to the initial like fiery, hell pit, but like he was hustling over just to like go like that,
Just
like, oh, you good? But like not to get him out, not to help like get him anywhere away from the site, but
no,
it's like,
no,
bro, I gotta check on him. I gotta get over there and I gotta make sure he's doing well.
yeah.
So it's like I don't know. I feel like after the fact, Yeah, I don't know. It was terrible. And it would have been like the first one. It would have been the second one too for Ferrari this season if he stayed
Right.
out. But what I'm wondering about, I was thinking about after, is because then we got some Leclerc issues after. So did that happen when he pitted? Is that when like his pedal got fucked? Because like when Sainz,
Yeah, it seemed
when
like a very similar timeline. And
it was
oh,
Right.
like
that was
after he
another
pitted.
thing. That's another thing we didn't touch on. Don't let me know if I butcher this so you can
Yeah,
jump in. But so we had that, that insanity happen with Carlos Sainz, and then right after we start hearing Charles Leclerc kind of hopping on the radio comms and saying like his pedals, I don't know if I think he was getting stuck or he couldn't really
Right.
release it. Um
yeah,
and in my mind, I was like, "Oh fuck, are we about to see another Ferrari implosion?" Like, it was
yeah,
things were looking dicey as we were heading to the near end of this race.
yeah. I think he was always. He said he couldn't go below like 30%
Hmm.
of what was it? It's like I
What,
actually have no
throttle?
Like
fucking clue.
releasing the
Yeah,
throttle
throttle. I
fully.
think it was
Yeah.
the throttle. Yeah. So like in like the slower corners, right? He was pretty fucked, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like also the pedal, I think like he said it was like it's supposed to follow his foot, and it wasn't doing
Yeah.
that. So he had to like kind of move it around. I think.
He had to manually like go under the pedal and like lift it up.
Yeah, so he was doing some on the fly, innovative racing, which I just was stressed because I hated every time they'd put another Leclerc. I was just holding my breath because every time Leclerc they show one of his like voice clips, I was afraid it was gonna be the one where he's like, "Yep, car's fucked, it's over." But like every time it was just him saying like, "Yeah, it's fucked, but I can still race, but it's just hard." And I was afraid
Right.
one of them was just like, I was like, I would have actually preferred if they just didn't have any voice lines, and I just didn't know because I wouldn't have really been able to tell, you know.
What's
But
crazy is even with that, he was like Verstappen was barely gaining anything on him,
Yeah.
even with his
yeah.
fucked throttle.
I think the only time Verstappen was gaining was into like the one turn where like he was gaining a lot where like it was the worst for the with the pedal like maintaining
Yeah,
that
turn
throttle.
3. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that one was the one where he was getting fucked, but besides for that, he was like basically maintaining. So
Yeah.
like Verstappen just couldn't catch. But it was just such a stressful end because it was like, well, if nothing goes even worse, he should. If nothing like gets worse than it is, he should finish first. But it's like knowing
Hmm.
Ferrari, something could get worse. Like
Because
Right.
yeah,
anything could happen with the Ferrari car. It can implode at any moment. So
it
was tough to see.
it's also just crazy because it was just kind of like replaying in my mind over and over just how like suddenly that Carlos Sainz explosion happened. I was like, dude, it's Ferrari. Anything could fucking happen in these
Right.
last couple laps as
Yeah.
we're cruising in
Yeah.
here.
But I think the difference between the two of them, and I think this goes to show, like, because I think Carlos is still using the old like engine, right? But there's like a new one
Yeah.
for Leclerc, right? So I think that just shows that old engine is so fucking unreliable. It's so ass. Because like
Right.
if you include Leclerc, like his 2 DNFs because the old engine, and Sainz has had 2 with that, it's just bad. So like, do you think there's a chance that they'd eat another penalty? Would they be able to eat another penalty and change Sainz's engine?
So I think Signs
Is that an
after this
option?
I think Signs after this race will have a grid penalty because that will be his 3rd or 4th engine already. So he'll have to get a grid penalty for that.
Yeah.
So
So hopefully the next one's more reliable, you know?
right.
That's the plan, but you never know with Ferrari.
Yeah, their reliability and their strategy calls. It's kind of like a coin flip. Which one of the
Ooh.
two is going to shoot him in the foot? But
That reminds me. I was actually impressed with some of the call. I felt like at least this weekend for Ferrari, maybe it was I don't know. I guess it was similar, but it seemed like this weekend they were much more willing to give calls and like tell the drivers what to do. Because I felt like this weekend was much better for the engineers. Like I felt like people were actually telling them what to do and not just kind of leaving them out there to figure it out. Or,
Right.
do what Carlos Sainz did and just completely disobey what you're told and win the race.
yeah,
So I think
there's
that
no need
I
for
was
that.
impressed with that from Ferrari.
Yeah, I was happy to see that the calls were confident and that they led to big things. It wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't shitty call. I was very happy to see during the virtual safety car they had Leclerc come in. Because we saw with the last safety car last time they were like, nah, you can stay out there on your old ass tires. So that was super nice to see. I'd say that was like an upgrade for the team or something they learned from a previous mistake.
Right.
Growth.
Yeah. So and plus, dude, imagine I think worst case scenario would have been Carlos Sainz engine explodes and then they don't pit Leclerc on their safety car from their other car, and then Verstappen pits and then he beats Leclerc. That would have been funny. But yeah, it's just tough, Ferrari. I'm always thinking worst case, but I think now with 2 Ferrari wins back to back, it's super nice and refreshing because it kind of is giving a fight back, for the championship. Because for a while there, it was just a stretch of just Red Bull dominance. It was like 5 Verstappen wins and a Perez win, I think, or like 4 Verstappen and 1 Perez.
Yeah.
So it's nice seeing the fight back, and I think, the closer they are, the more exciting the championship. So I hope it continues.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of radio calls, I think me and Wesley, or obviously all of us watched the race. I think me, Wesley, and our friend Alex, we were watching as Max Verstappen was talking to his race engineer. He was like, "This fucking car is terrible, dude."
Yeah. No, that's kind of like every driver during the race, is you're just berating your engineer. Apparently, I heard Yuki, like they got him like a psychologist because of how he talks to his engineer or something.
Oh, I heard about
not sure.
that.
Yeah, like that he's so toxic on the comms during the race. He's like a Bronze League of Legends player. So like I guess they had to get him someone to help out with that. Cause yeah. But that's every driver. And then after the race, they're just like, didn't go my way.
Right.
There's one other thing. Oh, okay. This is something I briefly touched on and I think you'll be able to add on to, Dylan, which is it seemed like Ferrari was happier with first place Leclerc and a DNF than they were with first place and a 4th place. So they were happier with first place Leclerc, Carlos Sainz DNF, so they were more satisfied than that with first place Sainz, 4th place Leclerc. It seemed like the spirits were up this weekend.
Yeah, it seems like the only person in Sainz's corner when it comes to these race wins and catastrophes, either or, is his cousin that like is his like manager or whatever. Yeah, like he was so devastated when you would have thought he was in the car burning. He looked so sad. He was completely upset. And everyone else was kind of like, wait, we have another driver. So like it's crazy. It's super funny to see, and I feel like it must get you a little bit as a driver when your team like. When your number 1 driver doesn't do well, your team's like, yeah, we can't have this. This is unacceptable, even if you win the race,
Right.
So yeah, but it also, it just sucks for the championship because like Verstappen got how many more points did he get because he got 2nd instead of 3rd?
6 or 7 points.
Yeah, so the gap could Leclerc could have caught a good deal more, and it could have helped with the constructor championship, but is what it is, for Ferrari.
Yeah, I think it kind of shows to like I guess how much Ferrari loves Charles Leclerc. Like, dude, even both pit stops or both pit like people were all like there when Leclerc won, and like like compared to Sainz's win, there was a lot like less than what Leclerc got.
Yeah, with Sainz, it was probably like, well, that's my 8-hour shift. I'm going home. I'll see you guys. I'm heading out. I'll see you later. But yeah, it was interesting to see. I forgot what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something, but
not to get into conspiracies or anything, but Ferrari isn't on Sainz's team, and it's starting to seem like the marshals weren't on his team either. I'm starting to think, if the cameras weren't on, maybe they don't pull him out of the car. Maybe Ferrari gives them the order.
Yeah, no.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, though. I'm just saying, things were looking a bit fishy.
It's kind of signs against the world out there a lot of the time, it seems. And then every race, it's just you just have to see Sainz get on the fucking back with a fucking middle-aged man getting on like Vespa and getting carted back to the garage.
Dude, Sainz has to start pitting himself. He's got to take off all the tires, put them on.
I love to see the image he gets. Dude, imagine they should have one race a year where you have to do all your own tires. You have to get it's an athletic one too. You got to get out and do all the tire changes. That'd be sick.
You know what would be a banger is the race engineers and racers swap for a race.
That would be so sick.
I would love to see the comms that start coming out.
Dude, the engineers.
Yuki Tsunoda's guy just going off on him.
He's gonna just start his whole entire everything he says is just gonna be blurred out or bleeped out.
Yeah, Who came up with this bullshit plan? What is this fucking car? Like, just all of this shit. Oh my god.
Dude, that guy's got to have a stiff drink every time after the race with Yuki. If he has
Or
to get a
before it,
psychologist,
too.
yeah, before he's getting a little wasted on the wall.
Just pre-gaming the fuck out of
Yeah.
qualies, just everything. Practice
does-
sessions.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Right. Before we go into to France or the French Grand Prix, I think most of our predictions did not hit this week.
No. Wait, I'm trying to look. Okay, so for who was our first crash? Wait, there was no crash, was there?
Not
Oh
really.
no,
not
I guess we'll count the
if
Russell
you
and the
count-
Perez.
Right.
Yeah.
Fuck, we know
I
one
was
did that.
kind of off. Pierre Gasly's crash was kind of like the second one with Vettel, but yeah.
And
None of our predictions kind of hit.
I said Stroll, and then Wesley said Latifi. Damn, nobody. Damn, I guess we gotta start going for those top drivers, but none hit. And then our bold predictions: Hamilton wins race for Joseph. A little miss. Albin 6th. He was twice that. He was 12th. So close. He could have got there. A few more laps, and then what was Wesley's bold prediction?
I had Daniel Ricciardo snagging 4th. And, he got 9th.
Yeah,
so
he was close.
About half, yeah.
Halfway there.
Yeah, we were a lot of halfways. And then our actual predictions, I think even the casters were on our side saying like, oh, this looks like Red Bull's sort of track.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked good going into race day, but especially with like, I don't know, it just didn't pan out that way. So
yeah, definitely not.
Like I think what did I put? I put Verstappen, Perez 1-2, I think.
Yeah.
What was it? I guess the one thing I did have is I was riding out for Alpine with Alonso, but I should have put Ocon. I should have known it would be the other Alpine driver because Alonso's the most unlucky person on the grid.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, not bad.
Not bad. I think we're starting to kind of see where our predictions are kind of going. I think after 5th and 6th, it's definitely winner takes.
Bit of a toss-up.
Whoever takes it. Yeah, it's a toss up.
But it's also tough because every race it seems like 1 to 2 of the top 2 teams or top 3 teams like they DNF. So it's like, oh man, it's so tough because then it fucks up all the predictions because then it's like a bunch of kind of wild cards up there. But I think I got my bold prediction is just gonna be Schumacher first every race rest of the year.
Yeah. If you keep putting it, it'll hit eventually.
Yeah. Eventually he'll get first. Yeah.
Surely it hits. And I don't know if it's early or not, but do we want to talk at all about the next race, or should we wait because we got 1 week gap?
No.
I was thinking with the gap.
This race is next week.
Oh wait. Really?
Yeah, this race is next week. Yeah, and then we'll have a 2-week break after France.
Wait, no,
yeah, we'll have.
I think it says the 22nd to the 24th. So I think.
Yeah, I'm tripping. I'm tripping. My bad. That was okay. Maybe I'm.
Yeah, 11 days. So I think we gotta wait because I mean, next week, it's gonna go off the rails regardless, but it'll be even more off the rails. It'll be about something else entirely. It'll be about NASCAR by the end.
NASCAR. We'll start. We'll just develop into an F2 podcast or an F1 game podcast. Start talking about online lobbies.
Yeah. So talk about the esports of it. Okay. Yeah, but I want to see the French track. Looks a little. Oh shit! It looks like a Ferrari sort of track. I don't know if I want to talk about it, but yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
I
we'll
don't know,
see.
man. It kind of looks like a Red Bull track to me.
I don't. This is tough.
Well, I feel like every time we've predicted one, it's been the other team that's like on the top spot. So I feel like whoever I predicted, it's just gonna be.
I think before Silverstone, we were kind of spot on though, where we had we predicted Verstappen and Leclerc accurately a couple times, but then after Silverstone, everything just kind of all went to hell. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. I think. Yeah. I mean, no, the one person I'm just gonna give a little sneak peek. Ocon. He's gonna be running hot at his home race.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Of course.
I think that about wraps it for this week in the Austrian Grand Prix.
Yep. Austria looking good all around. Big things. My guy getting
Okay.
first. It's been long overdue. Last one was like Australia, which was week 3. So, bit of a tragedy there. But more to come. More racing to come.